Ever feel like you're living a double life?
Oh, yeah.
That's Rose World in No Te Voy a Blank.
Definitely.
We're diving deep into this story about family secrets and unexpected friendships and the power of finding your voice.
And it all starts with those rats.
Oh, yeah.
Williamson's description of them is so vivid,
Okay.
so unsettling.
Let's unpack this. Right from the first page, we get these fat, well-fed rats with tails as thick and pink as strawberry cables. It's not your typical house mouse situation.
Not at all. It instantly tells us that something is off in Rose's home even before we fully understand her situation. It's our first clue into the secret Rose's been carrying, her mother Bonnie's hoarding.
And it's not just a little clutter here and there. Rose describes navigating her house like it's a dangerous playground filled with obstacles and booby traps. You immediately get a sense of how stressful and chaotic life with Bonnie must be for her.
Exactly, and it's fascinating how Williamson uses this chaotic home life to shape Rose's character. She's become incredibly responsible, even if it means keeping most people at a distance.
She'd rather operate the stage lights for school productions than actually be on stage,
Right.
which I kind of get.
It's a form of control in a world that feels anything but. And it's in this world that we meet Tanvi, a burst of energy who refuses to let Rose disappear into the background.
Tanvi's such a great character. She's persistent, she's funny, and she sees something in Rose that Rose doesn't even see in herself.
She's the catalyst for Rose stepping outside her comfort zone, even if it's just a little bit. Like when Tanvi convinces Rose to help rescue Noah, the new boy next door who's locked out of his house.
Which is actually how Rose discovers that Noah's home life is. Well, let's just say he understands interesting decor choices.
It's a hilarious scene, but it also reveals a shared understanding between Rose and Noah, a sense that they're both carrying secrets.
And their connection just grows from there, right?
Yeah.
They start texting, sharing little bits and pieces of themselves.
It's in these quiet moments that we start to see a different side to Rose, a side that maybe even she didn't know existed. She starts to let her guard down, and we see glimpses of the person she could be.
Speaking of glimpses, did you notice how Williamson uses music as this metaphor for Rose's own journey? Specifically, her relationship with her music teacher, Mr. Milford.
Absolutely. He becomes this incredibly important figure in Rose's life. He recognizes her talent, her perfect pitch, but he also sees beyond her technical skill.
He encourages her to embrace her musicality, to express herself in ways she never thought possible. It's like he's holding up a mirror to Rose, showing her the potential she never allowed herself to see.
And it's through Mr. Milford's encouragement that Rose starts to believe in herself, even if it's just a little bit.
He pushes her to audition for the National Youth Choir, which is huge E for someone like Rose. Talk about stepping way outside her comfort zone.
It feels like this turning point for Rose, a chance for her to break free from the chaos of her home life and really embrace her passion.
But of course, life throws a wrench in her plans.
Oh, right.
And this time it comes in the form of a very itchy, very contagious skin condition, scabies.
And this is where the tension really starts to build. Rose terrified of what people will think if they find out, so she tries to hide it, further isolating herself.
It's heartbreaking because you see how much shame she carries, how deeply ingrained those feelings of responsibility and guilt are. It's like she's blaming herself for her mom's hoarding, for the state of their home.
And this is where Bonnie's character becomes even more complex. We get these glimpses of the woman she used to be. Talented, vivacious, a captivating singer. But those glimpses are fleeting, often overshadowed by her denial and avoidance of their living situation.
You're right. It's like Bonnie's living in a fantasy world while Rose left dealing with the harsh reality of their situation.
And that reality is about to collide head-on with Rose's dreams of the National Youth Choir, right? Because suddenly this audition becomes entangled with all of her anxieties about her home life.
Talk about pressure. Remember when Rose says she'd rather face a panel of dragons than tell Bonnie about the audition? That's how impossible that conversation feels for her. She's terrified of her mom's reaction, terrified of what it will mean for their already fragile relationship.
And it's this fear, this desperate need to keep her home life a secret that ends up derailing Rose's chance at something she truly desires, which unfortunately is just the tip of the iceberg in the story.
It's almost like that audition, that chance to pursue her passion, becomes a symbol of everything Rose trying to escape. The chaos, the shame, the weight of responsibility she carries for her mother.
And what makes it even more excruciating is that Bonnie insists on accompanying Rose to London for the audition.
Oh man, that trip is a slow-motion train wreck waiting to happen.
So,
You can practically feel Rose's anxiety level rising with every single one of Bonnie's impulsive decisions.
From forgetting her purse
Oh my God.
to demanding a fancy pasta lunch they can't afford to then shoplifting seafood spaghetti, you just know it's going to be bad.
And it culminates in the underground station being shut down due to a security alert, leaving them stranded miles from the Royal Academy of Music. Talk about a nightmare scenario for someone who already struggles with control.
It's agonizing because Ro is desperately trying to hold it together to make it to the audition on time, but Bonnie's actions are making everything worse. And then just when you think it can't possibly get any worse, Bonnie's feet start bleeding because she insisted on wearing new shoes.
It's almost comical if it weren't so heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Bonnie is so wrapped up in her own needs and desires that she's completely oblivious to the immense pressure Ro is under.
And it highlights the fundamental disconnect between their realities. Ro is trying to navigate a world that feels impossible, while Bonnie seems to exist in a world of her own making.
And ultimately, Ro misses the audition. She tries to explain what happened, but the panel isn't interested in excuses. You can practically see her dreams slipping away, and there's nothing she can do to stop it.
It's especially devastating because we know how hard Ro worked for this opportunity, how much it meant to her to break free even for a little while from the weight of her home life.
And if that wasn't enough, remember how Ro gets pressured into going trick-or-treating with a group of classmates. And not just any classmates, but the same ones who are gossiping about her scabies.
The Halloween prank isn't just a cruel trick. It's a pivotal moment for Ro. This is where everything comes crashing down. It forces her to confront the consequences of her secrecy and the true nature of those friendships.
You can practically feel Ro's panic as she realizes they're headed straight for her house. All her worst fears, everything she's tried so hard to hide, is about to be exposed.
And the way Williamson describes it, with the eggs, the toilet paper, the flour, it's humiliating. The reactions of her classmates are brutal, especially Sienna, who seems to relish in Ro's pain.
Sienna's awful, but then there's Jamie. He's clearly stunned, like he had no idea this was Ro's reality. You can see the shift in his perception of her, which just adds another layer of complexity to the situation.
It's like he's seeing her for the first time, the real Ro, and it's both heartbreaking and hopeful. Heartbreaking because of the circumstances, but hopeful because it hints at the possibility of genuine connection.
But in that moment, Ro is mortified. She runs home only to be met by Bonnie, who is more concerned about her ruined dressing gown than the fact that their house has been vandalized.
It's like a physical manifestation of the disconnect between them. Bonnie is so caught up in her own world, her own problems, that she can't even see the emotional damage she's causing her daughter.
And that fight between them is explosive. Years of pent-up frustration and anger come pouring out. It's raw, it's real, and it speaks to the immense pressure Ro has been carrying for so long.
And it's in that moment of utter despair that Ro realizes something has to change. She can't keep living like this, constantly hiding, constantly protecting her mother at the expense of her own well-being.
She even tries to appeal to Bonnie's sense of responsibility, telling her about those real-life hoarders, the Collier brothers, who died because their house was so full of stuff. It's a desperate attempt to make Bonnie see the danger of her actions, to break through the denial.
But it doesn't work. Bonnie brushes it off. She can't see herself in those stories. She's in denial, and Ro is at her wit's end.
And then, almost as if the universe itself is intervening, the fire happens. It's terrifying, with Ro trapped in her room, smoke filling her lungs. You genuinely don't know if she's going to make it out alive.
The fire, while destructive and terrifying, acts as a powerful symbol of cleansing. It destroys Ro's home, yes, but it also creates the space for honesty and change in her relationship with her mother. It forces Bonnie to confront the consequences of her actions and face the reality of their situation.
It's like the fire kind of forced them to be honest with each other.
Yeah.
In the aftermath, when they're both displaced and vulnerable, we see a flicker of understanding emerge.
There's a rawness to their conversations now, a willingness to acknowledge the pain they've caused each other. It's not a sudden fix, but a tentative step towards healing.
And it's not just Bonnie and Ro.
Right.
This is where we see the true depth of Ro's friendships with Tanvi and Noah.
Yeah.
They don't shy away from the situation. They step up and offer support, a listening ear, a shoulder to cry on.
Even Jamie, who was initially so shocked by Ro's home life, reaches out with a genuine apology for his past behavior. It's like the fire burned away some of the pretense, some of the social barriers, and allowed for genuine connection to emerge.
It's in these moments of vulnerability, surrounded by people who genuinely care for her, that Ro starts to find her voice in other ways too. Remember, Mr. Milford's offer to let her sing a solo in the Christmas concert.
What's so powerful about that offer is that it represents a reclaiming of her passion, her talent. But even more so, it's a challenge for Ro to step out of the shadows and allow herself to be seen, truly seen for who she is.
And she's hesitant at first, right? She spent so long hiding, trying to control how others perceive her, that the thought of being in the spotlight is terrifying.
But Mr. Milford sees her potential not just as a musician, but as a young woman finding her voice. He knows she's capable of so much more than she gives herself credit for.
And in a truly courageous move, Ro agrees to do it. She even asks her best friend Jody to come and watch her perform. It's a huge step for Ro, a sign that she's starting to believe in herself, to trust that she's worthy of being seen and heard.
And then on the night of the concert, there's another surprise. Bonnie shows up.
Oh, wow.
But she's not just there to support Ro, she's there to apologize, to acknowledge the pain she's caused her daughter. It's a powerful moment of reconciliation, however imperfect it might be.
It's like they're both taking these tentative steps towards each other, acknowledging the difficult journey they've been on, both together and apart. And in a way, it's even more meaningful because it happens in the context of Ro embracing her passion, her music.
It speaks to the transformative power of vulnerability, of allowing ourselves to be seen even in our imperfections.
And in the final scene, we see Ro taking the stage, ready to sing her solo. It's a beautiful moment full of hope and promise. She's no longer the girl hiding in the shadows, weighed down by secrets and responsibilities. She's the girl who commands the stage, sharing her gift with the world.
Ro's journey in New Caper Avalanche is a powerful reminder that even in the midst of chaos and heartbreak, there's always the possibility of transformation, of finding your voice, your strength, your resilience.
It makes you wonder what would happen if we all embraced that vulnerability, that willingness to be seen for who we truly are. What kind of connections, what kind of transformations might be possible? And that's our deep dive on New Paper Avalanche by Lisa Williamson. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you in the next episode.